Xin Zhao is one of the most popular junglers in the game because he has great damage, he has good ganks, and he's relatively easy to play. In fact, as of right now, he's so popular he got a VGU and is the 4th most played jungler, despite his bad win rate, but I'll get to that in a little bit. So for the next 10 hours, I'm gonna try to learn Xin Zhao in 3 steps. First, normal games, second, do some research, and third, play some ranked games. I'm doing this because I'm trying to learn every champion, so one day, I can make the greatest Lego video ever. So what runes and builds should you go on Xin Zhao? Well, the most common rune is Conqueror, but if you want to go the Assassin build, you can also go Hail of Blades. For your build, you have 2 main options, the Bruiser build, but an also very fun Assassin build, which I will go over. For Bruiser, you want to build items like Sundered Sky, Black Cleaver, Steric's Gauge, Death's Dance, Spear Visage, and then some sort of defensive boot. However, an item that sees little play, but I personally love, is Titanic Hydra. The stats are great, it helps your clear, and the auto attack reset makes your Q way faster at getting the knockup. I would personally recommend going this item first or second, even though it's not one of his more popular items right now. As for the lethality build, you want to go Yomu's Ghostblade for a little bit of mobility and burst, Profane Hydra, a Last Whisperer item, and then something like Edge of Night or Death's Dance to round out your build with some survivability. And I just want to say his win rate's low because he's the most popular pick if someone gets autofill jungle. But if you look at high elo where people know how to play him, his win rate's like 56%. Kinda like me. Anyway, on to some normal games. Going into the first game of the challenge, the goal was simple. I wanted to skirmish as much as possible to get a true grasp of Xin Zhao's strengths. I wanted to gank and invade at every opportunity to see how far I could push this champion before reaching his breaking point. Already, I was feeling unkillable. With every gank or invade, both Xin Zhao and my ego just kept getting stronger and stronger. So I started biting off a little more than I could chew and somehow was still coming out positive in these fights. Most of the time, I felt like I could simply go in whenever I wanted. My passive healing would keep me alive in any fight, and if things started to get a little bit sticky, I could just use my ult to get out, right?
I don't have ult.
It's fine. Now that I had that out of my system, I just need to chill out a bit and not go into every fight unless the kill's guaranteed.
Ed, Alacrity, save me! Oh.
I will say, once you get an early lead on Xin Zhao, people start to fear you. Just look at this poor Echo watching me do his grubs. He's too scared to even go in. Even when Renekton finally came to help, it was just another kill for me. So I kept taking objectives for free, and I really thought Zed was supposed to be the assassin here. By this point in the game, I was so far ahead I felt completely unstoppable. I mean, look at 10-hour Ecor here. He's walking into a 1v4 against Renekton, Echo, Jinx, and Nami with zero fear in his eyes. Killing Jinx as 4 people continued to attack him, and even killing Nami before finally dying. It was not a surprise they surrendered soon after that play.
I might be the best Xin Zhao in the world!
I was barely on the 2nd hour of this challenge, and already I could tell Xin Zhao has so much aura as a jungler. You're incredibly strong early, the enemy fears you when you get ahead, and even the jungle camps are scared of you and help you get kills.
Thank you, blue buff!
But I'll come clean, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. You see, I had this little problem where I just kept feeling completely unkillable, and I would go into fights I probably shouldn't. Which is obviously a problem. Even here, in what is essentially a 1v3, I kept saying,
oh, I might die here. Oh, I might die.
Totally unaware that I was gonna get absolutely annihilated.
I'm so dead.
Wow. Unfortunately, this just kept happening. I'd engage into a fight where I thought I had the backing of my team, only to find myself completely alone. So I decided to switch away from the Bruiser build I had been playing up until this point and go for the lethality build. The idea was it would give me a lot more damage, but it would have a lot less sustain, which would force me to be a little bit more careful in my next few games. Now it was just about rewiring my brain so I did not see Xin Zhao as this giga-tanky, self-sustaining beast of a champion, so I could choose my fights a little more carefully. Otherwise, I'll end up like this. So my next game, I did just that, switching to the lethality build. Already, things were kind of starting to feel better. We're only 12 minutes into this game and I'm already destroying the enemy jungler. I'm just doing insane damage with this build. It was not a perfect transition by any means. I still had a few mistakes here and there, but that was all part of the process, and one of the main reasons I like making these videos. You have to remember, I'm still in the early hours of this challenge, so mistakes like overestimating my damage or tankiness are bound to happen. Now this guy, I don't know what his excuse is.
Jesus Christ, Rumble!
For the most part though, things were going much better. I wasn't getting myself into fights I could never win in a million years. I was doing insane damage, so it didn't feel like I was sacrificing power by switching builds. And for the most part, it was correcting my playstyle. This build just felt so much better, even when I wasn't playing perfectly. Now, I have to contradict that previous statement by talking about one of the biggest downsides of the lethality build. If you fall behind, you might as well just farm all game because you're gonna be so weak. The kicker here is that I didn't necessarily fall behind by dying, I just kind of failed to get kills during my ganks, unlike the enemy Lee Sin. So the next time I encountered him, it really was not a close fight, he completely destroyed me. Luckily, against squishier enemies like Ezreal, I was not completely useless, but it still took me much longer to kill him than it usually would've. Eventually though, I'd fallen so far behind that even the Ezreal, who I had killed once before, was now bullying me out of lane.
My bad, did not respect your game.
And sniping me from across the map. Luckily, I was able to recognize this issue pretty early on, and with the help of my team, I was able to slowly climb my way back into this game. With each kill, with every assist, I could feel my power slowly coming back. It wouldn't be long until I could start taking control of my own games and lead my team to victory.
17 assists, by the way, I'm an assassin.
It was clear now. I couldn't fall behind while playing the lethality build if I wanted to keep being useful to my team, which is an absolute necessity as a jungler. So the best way to stay ahead was to continue applying constant pressure throughout the map, and getting plenty of kills along the way, which is something Xin Zhao kind of excels at. I started having these insane pro-level moments where the enemy team couldn't hit me with anything. I mean, could Faker even do something like this? I even managed to get 2 kills here, which all goes to say that I was feeling much more confident now. Like I was once again on track to understanding how this champion actually works. And I had no intention of relinquishing that feeling for my next game. So once again, I immediately got to work and started applying pressure all throughout the map. But after a failed gank mid, I kept having this nagging feeling deep inside of me that something was wrong. Maybe it was a fluke. I mean, everybody gets lucky every once in a while. I had no reason to feel like things were gonna go sideways. Alright, fuck it. I'm just gonna stick to going for squishy targets like Samira and Rakan instead. It is a lethality build after all, so I should just delete them, right? Wait, how exactly am I falling behind here? Oh yeah, that's why. Unfortunately, even though I loved how much damage the lethality build could do, falling behind early, having to go against bruisers, or just having to go against somebody super ahead was so difficult. After these games, I realized Xin Zhao's not as tanky as I thought. So I did some research on YouTube, and here's what I found. 1. Xin Zhao is primarily a ganking jungler. Don't get me wrong, you can still full clear, especially if there are no ganks available, but you want to focus on how good your early game ganks and skirmishing is so you can get early leads and objectives. 2. You want to learn the fast Q combo. Basically, you press your Q, auto-attack something 2 times, so that way when you do eventually jump on the enemy, you get an instant knockup. This is great for picks or quickly engaging a team fight if you're the engaged. 3. Xin Zhao's ult is better if you use it early on in a fight. The damage is based on current health. I thought it was based on missing health when I first started playing Xin Zhao, but also using your ult early completely disrupts the enemy team by knocking everyone away, and if they instinctively try to hit you back, you're now immune. 4. If you take one thing away from this video, don't use your W at the start of a fight or gank. It is better to just use it after you knock them up with your Q to maximize damage, or when you're chasing the enemy down to give your E more range. I know that it is tempting to try to hit them with your W so your E has a longer range, but it is honestly just better to flank the enemy and cut them off by just walking at them most of the time. This is honestly a tip for all junglers, but don't use your gap closer or your longest ranged ability at the start of a gank unless you have to. If you use your gap closer first and the enemy flashes or dashes away, you now have no options. But if you walk behind them and play patient, they might panic, waste their flash, and then you can jump on them. 5. You can use the W flash combo if you need to close the gap quickly. If you flash after your first swing, the second swing comes out immediately, which makes it harder for the enemy to dodge. This means it's easier to finish off the enemy or catch up to them with your E if you need to. And with that, on to some ranked games. Going into my first ranked game, I felt like I had accomplished what I had sought out to do, and Xin Zhao was no longer this giga-tanky, never-dying champion in my head. I decided to go back to the bruiser build from the beginning of the video, combined with everything I had learned up until this point, where I want to apply constant pressure on the enemy laners, make the enemy jungler's life a living hell, and not overreaching into these unwinnable fights anymore. And let me tell you, after switching back to the bruiser build, it felt like I had taken off the training wheels and I was at full power now. I hadn't felt this strong with Xin Zhao since the beginning of the challenge, and man did it feel good. So I kept pressuring lanes as much as possible, and unfortunately for this bot lane, it was their turn to feel the full depth of my power. You think you're allowed to go back to your base? No, sir. I'll give you a much more painful back instead. That was so sick, actually. Even this poor Ahri was getting styled on with this nice W flash. In teamfights, once again, I was an absolute demon. I was doing tons of damage to the enemy team, but this time I knew my limits better. Even in intense fights such as this one, I wasn't over-engaging and getting myself killed. As a matter of fact, I even lived here. I even managed to do the quick knockup thing I talked about during the tip section. Just look at the damage. Smolder couldn't even react here. I'll admit it wasn't all good. I'm going to make some mistakes and I'm going to have bad starts every once in a while. But the important thing is, thanks to the lethality build, I now knew what a bad early game looks like and what to do if it happens. I just have to slow down a tad. Analyze every engage to make sure I wouldn't fall even more behind, because once I'm behind in the mid game, the match might as well be over for me. Thankfully, even when you do fall behind on Xin Zhao, and you feel like you no longer do any damage, you can still build kind of a hybrid tank and be a frontline. Sure, you'll sacrifice some damage and sustain, but you practically have none of that when you're behind anyway, so I think the trade-off's worth it. There's just this specific time frame in every match where you have to make the most impact possible, because if I'm not careful, I'll just become useless like I have in games before. And since we're on the topic of the early game, I'm gonna take this opportunity to talk about something I've wanted to since the beginning of this champion, his clear speed.
I'll say my least favorite thing about Xin Zhao is his clear. My god, is it slow.
You see, Xin Zhao has one of the worst feeling clears I've ever experienced during any of these 10-hour challenges. I know what you're thinking. Ecor, how is this important to the video? It's only a clear speed. Let me explain. First off, there's the issue where I'm always arriving to Scuttle Crab a little bit behind the enemy jungler. Sometimes it's fine for Xin Zhao in the early game because he'll just bully and win the 1v1 anyway. Other times though, then there's the issue of falling off. You see, Xin Zhao sacrifices some of his early gold and XP from the jungle in the hopes of getting returns on investment with his ganks in lane, aka when he gets a kill or assist. So while other junglers can excel at getting camps extremely quickly, Xin Zhao is a little bad at it, especially in the early game, so ganking a lane and not getting a return on investment can mean death for your entire game. I feel like not falling behind and trying to be efficient with my ganks and all-ins has just been an overarching theme during this challenge, so I wanted to have a bit of a mental reset. I've had more than enough games where things felt out of my control, where some silly mistakes cost me dearly, or where I wasn't playing to the potential I knew that I could with Xin Zhao. I was done with all that. I wanted to be somebody my team could constantly rely on, to tank when they needed a tank, to go in when nobody else was ready to pull the trigger, to execute someone if they overstepped. So I did just that. Once the early game was over and I no longer had this insane pressure that I had before, I took a step back and tried to control the game and let my damage dealers do the damage as I protect them. All while, dishing out plenty of damage myself, of course. And even though this game had started out a bit rough for me, I knew I had been useful even if I wasn't able to 1v5 and do tons of damage like in some of my games before. As long as I kept my carries alive and got them fed early, I had done my job. That's when it all finally clicked. The final piece of the puzzle that is Xin Zhao. I didn't have to be this savior every game. Sometimes getting my carries ahead and protecting them from danger was more than enough. It's like a cow once told me, a strong man stands up for himself, A stronger man stands up for others. So I did just that. Early game, I was using my absurd strength to bully the enemy laners and picking up a few kills in the process. While in the mid and late game, where I usually lost some power, now I was the engage for my team, or the tank that could protect my AD carry. I was now the team player I was always needed to become. Don't get me wrong, even when I was becoming the team player I always needed to be, there were still plenty of opportunities for me to pick up some kills. So finally, even on a game that didn't start off the greatest, we managed to turn it around.
How did we turn that around is crazy.
Like clockwork. The next game began and I immediately went back to terrorizing the Rift, picking up any kills I could get my hands on.
I didn't mean to take it.
Sure, buddy. With every kill, getting stronger and stronger, understanding perfectly who Xin Zhao is and who I had finally become. When the time came, I was there for my team, helping them in any way they needed me to, while doing an absurd amount of damage, by the way. Just like that, in 20 minutes, the match was over. I had dropped my only non-death game in this entire 10-hour challenge. Now that's what I call progress. But as good as this game was, you are not ready for this final game of the 10-hour challenge.
Yeah, I think it has to be, I think this has to be the end. Like, I think I've mastered Xin Zhao. I don't think I need that last hour. This was like the perfect game. It was incredible.
Alright, the game didn't start off amazing, but I've had a lot of practice from behind now. It's practically second nature to me. Immediately I had to go for a guaranteed kill. Someone who could fight back as much as they wanted, but could never stop me. And once I was back in the game, I knew I couldn't take my foot off the pedal. I had to keep pushing my limits. When I saw the Amumu trying to engage on my bot lane, I didn't forget what I had learned earlier and immediately turned around to protect my AD carry and support. Only when the threat was neutralized did we turn around and pick up another kill on the enemy bot lane. With every kill, I was becoming unstoppable, and my team seemed to recognize this, as Yuumi was glued to me from that point forward. Even when the forces of evil tried to gang up on me, they were no match for everything I had learned over these past 10 hours. With every movement, I was creating chaos and destruction on the Rift, and there was nobody that could stop me. All of a sudden, it was like I'd completely forgotten everything I had just learned, but it didn't matter because I was just in a flow state. I was engaging the unwinnable fights, except this time, the fights were winnable, and they were never going to stop me in a million years. From the depths of the shadows, I attacked my prey with no mercy, taking every kill I wanted with nobody to tell me otherwise. I was 22 minutes into the game, and 20 people had failed to stop me. It was far too late for them at this point. With every engage, I was entering Nirvana, a place reserved only for those who understand a champion's true power. Oh yeah, I stream on Twitch and YouTube most days, so feel free to follow on Twitch or like, comment, and subscribe here on YouTube.
I'm literally God. I don't know what else to say.